In Roseryville, Maryland, time doesn't just pass, it lingers. The trees have seen too much to forget. Revolution, resilience, and the rise of legends, born from silence. It's the kind of town most people drive past without even noticing. A green blur between Marlboro and Clinton, somewhere in the shadow of DC's skyline. But for those who stop, who really stop, Roseryville has a heartbeat, all on its own. You can hear it in the crack of a bat on a dusty field, the echo of cleats across the high school gym, and sometimes, if the wind hits right, you can almost hear the cheers of crowds from decades ago, ghost of champions who once ruled Prince George's County. Roseryville isn't loud, it's legendary in whispers, and if you listen closely enough, you'll realize some of the greatest stories in Maryland sports history were born here. Welcome back. This is Friday Night Lore, where we take a random pin, a random place in the United States, and then we talk about it. We find a little history, but we try to find the greatest sports history that this town has ever happened. And we randomly selected Roseryville, Maryland, a town I've never heard of. I haven't really spent any time in Maryland, let alone this place. But again, when a random place is chosen, we dig deep. And boy, did we have to dig really deep on this. So without further ado, let's jump into this. Because before there were stadiums, before there were scoreboards, there was Mount Airy Mansion. In 1751, Benedict Swingate Calvert, son of the 5th Lord Baltimore, built the grand estate on rolling acres of Roseryville. It wasn't just another, Colonel Manor. It was the heart of the Maryland. In 1774, something extraordinary happened inside those walls. Eleanor Calvert married John Parke Custis, the son of Martha Washington. Yep, that Martha Washington, which meant that, for one night, George Washington himself rode down these very Maryland trails through the forest of Roseryville to witness a union that bound two families and symbolically two nations together. Imagine that, the year before the Revolution, the future first president of the United States sitting in a candlelight ballroom toasting to a young couple's future on the same soil that we now call home. Those were the first legends of Roseryville, the kind written in history and in the books. But the land itself wasn't done making history. Centuries later, the same hills that once heard colonel carriages rolling now echoed the sounds of a different kind of royalty. Teenagers in cleats, chasing dreams instead of destiny. And they would make Roseryville proud in ways no founding father could even have imagined. Let's jump to 1954. America was changing, rock and roll on the radio, post-war optimism in every small town in Prince George's County. Quiet uprising was brewing on a soccer field. At Frederick Sasser High School, a team of boys no one expected much from stepped onto the field that fall. They didn't have fancy uniforms. Their practice field, it wasn't perfectly mowed. And their cleats, well, they were worn pretty thin. But these boys had fire. They practiced until the sun dipped below the trees, the sky glowing orange over Roseryville's horizon. They weren't just playing a game. They were playing for respect. Week after week, the Underdogs from Sasser faced powerhouse programs from Hyattsville, Bowie, Laurel, teams with bigger budgets, better facilities, deeper benches. And one by one, they beat them all. The headlines barely captured it. Sasser boys takes the county. But for the town, it meant everything. They were the 1954 Prince George's Countywide Soccer Champions, the first of their kind. The players didn't think they were changing history. They were just doing what they loved. But that season planted something deep in Roseryville's soil. Belief. Because once a small town team beats the odds, everyone starts to believe that anything is possible. And in Roseryville, that belief was about to catch fire. Because in 1962, 8 years later, a new hero stepped onto the hardwood floors of Sasser's gym. His name? Phil Cranford, class of 1962. A name who still gets spoken about in reverent tones by anyone who remembers that golden era of Maryland basketball. Cranford, he wasn't built like a star. He didn't have endorsements or a highlight reel. What he had was grit. This bone deep, leave it all on the court kind of grit. He was the first one in the gym every single morning, and the last one to leave every single night. He practiced his shots until the lights dimmed, not because anyone told him to, but because he couldn't not do it. That season, Cranford became something of a legend in the making. 175 points in just 18 games. That's 26 points per game for anybody that isn't great at math. And this was in an era before the three-point line. The crowds, they started to swell. The bleachers packed so tight the fans even had to start to line the walls, standing. Every time Phil rose for a jumper, you could hear the hush, that split-second silence before the swish. Reporters called him unstoppable. His coach called him the soul of the team, and Roseryville called him one of their own. When his senior season ended, there wasn't a parade, no TV cameras, but in the county, his legacy burned like a beacon, proof that greatness can come from anywhere if you've got enough heart to chase it. By the time 1967 rolled around, Sasser High had become a factory for belief. Kids walked those halls knowing that they were part of something bigger, something even sacred. That year's team wasn't the biggest, it wasn't the most athletic, but they were brothers, forged by the fire of every team that came before them. They carried the pride of Cranford, the hunger out of 54 champs, and the spirit of a town that refused to be overlooked. The regular season was a grind, double overtimes, road trips, buzzer beaters. They won ugly. They won clean. But they just kept winning. Then came the Maryland Class B state championship. The gym was packed to the rafters. Students, parents, neighbors, even rival schools came to see what Roseryville's finest could do. The final whistle blew, and the scoreboard told the story. Champions. They had done it. A small-town school, outmatched on paper, outplayed on heart. That night, Roseryville became more than just a random dot on the map that we find here on Friday Night Lore. It became a symbol of perseverance, unity, and pride. The local newspaper headline said it best. Sasser stuns the state. Class B kings crowned. From that moment, every kid who laced up sneakers in Prince George's County, they wanted to be a part of that story. They wanted to be a part of their own story. Time, as it always does, it moves forward. And, well, that school eventually closed. But the heartbeat of Roseryville didn't. Just found new players to carry the torch. Enter Earl Timberlake, a tall, talented, relentless young man who started his high school journey at Rock Creek Christian Academy. That was easy to say, huh? Right? In Roseryville. He walked the same streets as the champions of old. And maybe, just maybe, he felt the same fire that they did. The gym was small, the lights were dim, but the stakes, they were always high. Every time Timberlake touched the ball, you could feel something electric, like history watching from the bleachers. In 2015, Rock Creek Christian made noise in the Capital Beltway Classic, going up against some of the best teams in the region. Down by 2, 9 seconds left, ball in Timberlake's hands, crossover spin, step back shot, the buzzer sounded, swish! They didn't win a state title that night, but they won something just as important. Respect. For Timberlake, it was just another step. He went on to play for DeMatha, Miami, Memphis, and Bryant, proving that Roseryville doesn't just grow trees, it grows greatness. For the town, his rise was validation. It was a reminder that the same spirit that powered the 54 champs and the 67 kings still lives on. And today, Roseryville State Park stretches across 1,200 acres of trails and history. You can still walk the paths where Washington once rode. You can still visit Mount Airy Mansion and stand in the rooms that hosted presidents and dreamers alike. And if you close your eyes, you can still hear it. The cheers from 54, the swish from 62, the roar from 67, and the shot from 2015. Every sound blends into the one heartbeat. Steady, proud, eternal. Roseryville isn't a town built on wealth or fame. It's built on legacy. The kind passed from player to player, coach to coach, generation to generation. It's the living proof that greatness, it doesn't need a spotlight. Just a gym, a goal, a dream, and, well, a little bit of Maryland soil. And maybe that's why this place matters. Because in Roseryville, you don't have to be known to be remembered. You just have to believe. So from George Washington's ride to a county soccer title, from a kid named Cranford dropping 474 points, a team of Class B kings in 67, and a young man named Timberlake. To every dreamer still running those trails today, Roseryville has been a place where ordinary people, to extraordinary things. This is what Friday Night Lore is about. It's not about fame. It's not about fortune. Just the stories that remind us that sometimes the biggest legends come from the smallest towns. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Next week, we're going to find another random place. We're going to deep dive into the greatest sports moments in that town's history. Big or small, we're going to pin them all. Well, probably not all of them. That'd be a lot of them, but that'd be pretty cool if we did every city and every town. But there's a lot. I wonder how many there are. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed this. We know we did. If you know anybody in the area, send it to them. I'd love to hear their feedbacks. Hopefully we did this town, Roseryville, some justice. Pretty cool. If you have any pictures from the town, let us know. We'd love to throw it on the socials. But either way, we can't thank you enough. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.